Hello, and welcome to Pokemon Lair. Today, we're going to be unboxing a box of 10 cards I sent to Professional Sports Authority, or PSA, over a year ago, and I just got them back. They come in a box like this, inside a bigger box, surrounded by packing, so they're safe and sound when you ride them. They come in really packaged well in here, and they're pretty easy to get out of the box, sort of. It's a little hard. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Alakazam, first edition, Holo, the number 1 card. We start by looking at the surface of the card for any bends, scratches, or abrasions. Then we look at the centering of the card from side to side and top to bottom. This one, the centering is a little off towards the top. Then we look at the edges to make sure they're crisp and clean. There's no fraying or damage. Continuing on the back, we're looking for the same thing. This one has no blemishes, bends, or scratches on the back. The centering is a little off to the upper left, and the edges look really crisp and clean. There's no fraying or edge damage. And that's going to give us a grade of Mint 9. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Charizard, first edition, number 21 card. We start by looking at the surface of the card for any bends or scratches or any damage. This one has none. Then we move on to the centering. The centering on this card looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. We start looking at our edges, and we're looking for any fraying or damage, and this one looks like it has a little damage on the upper right top corner. Continuing on the back, we're looking at the surface of the card, and this one looks really clean and with no damage or bends. We look at our centering. Our centering looks really good on this one from top to bottom and side to side. We start looking at our edges, and we see that there's a corresponding nick or something up at the upper left top corner where you can see a little white showing there. And due to that review, we are looking at a near mint 8. Not too shabby with some edge damage. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Blastoise, a first edition Holo, the number 3 card. And we start our review looking at the surface of this card, and it looks really clean. No bends, scratches, or blemishes. Then we look at our centering of the card, and the centering looks pretty good from side to side and top to bottom. And then we finally look at all our edges, and our edges look pretty darn good. Looking at the back, you can see that our surface is really clean. No bends or scratches or blemishes. You look at our centering, and you can see that it's off to the right. And then if you look at all our edges, you'll see that those are nice and clean. There's no fraying or damage. And that's going to give us a grade of Mint 9. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I like that. Grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Dugtrio, a first edition, the number 23 card. We start our review by looking at the surface of the card. There are no bends, scratches, or blemishes on this card. We look at our centering of this card, and it looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. And then we go ahead and we look at the edges, and the edges of this one look pretty clean with no fraying. Looking at the back, we're looking for any damage to the surface of the card, and this one doesn't have any bends or scratches. We go ahead and look at our centering, and if you look at this one, you can see that the centering is towards the top. And then if you look at our edges, we have very crisp, clean edges with no damage or fraying. And with that, our grade is going to be a grade Mint 9. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Dragonite, a Holo first edition, the number 5 card. We start our review looking at the surface of the card. This one is really nice. There's no damage or scratches or bends on it. Then we continue on to the centering. The centering of this card looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. And then finally the edges. The edges look really clean. There's no fraying or damage. Continuing to the back, you'll see that there's no damage on the surface or bends. And you start looking at the centering, you can see that it's off to the left a little. And there's, continuing to the edges are really nice, except at the upper left top, there's a little damage up there or some fraying. And with that being said, our grade is a mint 9. Pretty good. We'll see you later. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Gyarados, a first edition number 25 card. We start by looking at the surface of the card. This one has no bends, scratches, or blemishes. Then we start looking at the centering of the card, and it looks pretty good from side to side and top to bottom. We finally look at the edges of this card, and it looks really clean. All the edges look like there's no problem with them, no damage or fraying. On the back, we're looking at the surface of the card, and this one has no bends, damages, or scratches. We go to the centering, and the centering of this back looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. The only thing I can see is a little edge damage as we look at the edges on the upper left and upper right corners, and that can cause some issues. But with all that being said, our grade is a mint 9. Awesome, awesome, love it. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Golbat, a first edition Holo, the number 7 card. This one we are looking at the surface of the card. There's no scratches, blemishes, or bends in it. We're looking at the centering of this card, and it looks really good from top to bottom and side to side. And finally, looking at the edges of this card, they're crisp and clean. There's no fraying or damage. Looking at the back, as you can see, the card is really clean. There's no bends or scratches on the back. The centering looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. The only issue I can see on the edges of this is there's a little bit of damage maybe on the lower corners of this card. And that will give us a grade of a mint 9. Nice. Good card. Review on a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Machamp, a first edition, the number 27 card. We look at this card, and there's no bends or damage or scratches to the front of the card. We look at the centering of the card, and the centering is really good from top to bottom and side to side. And finally, we look at our edges, and our edges are nice. There is no fraying or damage. Referring to the back, we look at it. It looks really good and clean. There's no bends or damage to the back, no scratches. We look at our centering, and our centering looks pretty good. From top to bottom, side to side, it's slightly to the left. And if you look at our edges, you can see that most of them are really clean, except the upper left corner has a little fraying or damage. And that's going to give us a grade of mint 9 for Dark Machamp. Like it. Review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Hypno, a first edition Holo, the number 9 card. We look at the surface of this card for any scratches, blemishes, or bends. This one has none. We go ahead and look at our centering, and our centering of this card looks pretty good. It's slightly to the left, but then we go ahead and look at our edges, and the edges are nice and clean. I don't see any damage on them. Moving on to the back, you can see that the back looks pretty good. There's no bends or scratches. The centering is off to the right, though, from side to side, but the top to the bottom looks pretty good. And finally, if you're looking at the edges of this, there's a slight problem, a little damage to the upper right corner. And due to all that, our grade will be a near mint 8. Not too bad. Review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Slowbro, the number 29 card, a first edition. And we're looking at the surface of this card. There's no bends, scratches, or damage. We go ahead to the centering of the card, and it looks pretty good from side to side and top to bottom. And finally, we look at all the edges and the corners, and they look really crisp and clean with no damage. And looking at the back, we notice that the surface is really clean, no bends or scratches. We look at our centering from side to side and top to bottom. They look really close. We go ahead to our edges and corners. The edges look good. Our corners, the upper right and upper left, both have a very little fraying or damage. And that is enough to drop us to a Mint 9. Not too bad. I thought it might be a little worse.